Jackson, and I am the founder of GoodDoctors.Health. And one of the things that we are going to be talking about today are a lot of the patterns that are really destroying people's future. So, right now, especially in America, there is a huge movement that is happening in healthcare. So many individuals are just, they're not getting what they need from our traditional healthcare system. And they're looking for answers. They're looking for something else. They're looking for better because, frankly, I mean, we know we deserve to feel better. We know that we do not need to wait until we are in a full blown disease process to finally do something about the different symptoms that we're having. We know that having no energy, having you poor mental clarity, you know, hair that is falling out, we know those are all bad signs. We don't want to wait anymore until it gets so bad that now the only options are a script. A lot of individuals, they're tired of all the pharmaceuticals. They're tired of being shuffled from one specialist to the next. They are very, very tired of all of this testing that never seems to lead to understanding the true root cause. And see, one of the things that's incredible, there's this huge field of healthcare that's emerging called functional medicine. And basically, it's the science of using diet, lifestyle, supplements, nutraceuticals to address disease patterns. And in fact, it can actually address things so much earlier and address symptoms at the root cause. I loved how, somebody was just telling me yesterday one of the reasons why she was going through this process with all of her blood work is she doesn't want to take these medications that are going to then not make her feel the symptoms because she's like, I know what's going on underneath. It's going to keep getting worse. I'm just not going to be as worried about it because I can't feel it. So, and here's one of the cool things when you find out what the root cause of your symptoms, your energy, your weight gain, your the mental clarity, or like again, hair falling out. Which, by the way, one of the first signs. So whenever your body is like getting into an imbalance, you're coming into a deficit. You're just getting so depleted. One of the first things we see is changes in your skin, hair, nails, and joints. Skin, hair, nails, and joints. The hair starts falling out or getting real thin, just changing in texture. We see nails that get super brittle and they break really easy. We see where the skin just doesn't have that same glow, that same, it just doesn't look like it should. Especially we see the joints. So one of the things is your joints are a very mineral rich resource. So in a deficit, if you're just not getting what you need, frankly, it's going to pull minerals from your joints, and we start to really feel that. You feel a lot older than you deserve. You're like, gosh, I, I'm not 90 years old. Why do I feel like it? So that's one of the big things that we're always looking for is why are these changes happening in our bodies, and then getting to the root of it before we hit a full on disease process. So one of the things that I have loved about this this work is because you do have the before and after lab work to prove that we're making the changes. It's not just that, like, oh, I think I feel better, maybe I do, maybe I don't, I don't know, is this even working? We have the bio data to show that the progress that's being made, and if you want more progress than what you're getting, how to get there. It's just a really incredible way of doing healthcare. And I mean, I've really loved it. We do thousands and thousands of these labs, and I've I've gone through so many before and afters. Here's what's really cool: these before and after. I mean, this stuff works so consistently. I can look at a before and after lab report, and that I can actually tell if the person is taking their supplementation or not taking their supplementation. I mean, and we're talking about just simple factors like cholesterol. We're talking about factors like liver enzymes, kidney functions. It is incredible how much these numbers do change whenever we are whenever you are doing when you're getting the right data. So And the biggest thing that we look at is we just want a head to toe analysis. And we don't want to just be like, oh, you're having headaches, so we're going to look at that region, or you're possibly having kidney function or hormones. We're not going to only target the one area because we are whole persons. The hip bone is connected to the leg bone. So it is almost impossible to have an issue in one area and it not affect another. So that's why we prefer the wide net head to toe analysis as opposed to just, running these, very targeted tests just for your thyroid, just for your hormones, just to check your glucose levels. How is everything functioning together? So when we do this head to toe analysis as well, here's why, again, I like this approach. We can find out what is the thing that is really creating the issues. I know you may feel like your hormones are off, and they may be off, but is there something else bigger that's happening? Because the way the human body works, it's designed to heal. So sometimes the reason why you're not healing, it's pretty straightforward. There's just your system's just overwhelmed. When you address like that first domino, when you address that big thing that's really depleting all your resources, when you take care of that one thing, then all the other dominoes start falling on their own. This is why I don't do tons and tons of supplementation because it's overkill most of the time. If you find the one, two, maybe three, very rarely find three things that are really like huge all on their own. You find the one to two dominant things, you get those addressed, all the others fix themselves, and we don't have to spend hundreds and thousands of dollars on all these other pills and spending all this extra time trying to make all these special meals and doing all of these very particular routines, creating all these powders and these gargantuan smoothies and all that. It's just a lot easier than that. And trust me, if it was hard, I would tell you, but that the data is just not showing that to be the case. The data is showing that in general, when you look at what the body is asking for, when it's telling you what it needs to heal, and you do those things, everything else just takes care of itself. So when we are going through, as people are getting better and or trying to get better in the process, there are some very, very specific patterns that absolutely impact longevity. And then there's some very specific patterns that are just steadily destroying your health. And I want to be very clear, it's not always these big things. Sometimes it's just these tiny incremental changes over time that make a huge difference. You've all heard the analogy of, the plane that takes off from New York to Los Angeles. If it's only just a couple degrees off, its landing spot is hundreds of miles off. The same thing happens with our health. Just small incremental changes over time in good directions can make a huge difference. I was just going through a lab report with a gentleman who has had some really, really consistently high cholesterol levels. And when we were going through, and and they have been really working on this. I mean, putting so much effort. I'm so proud of them. They've made huge, huge changes to their diet and how they're eating and where they're getting their food from and how they're sourcing. And all of that is great and very, very important. And whenever I was going through and I'm like, oh, well, really, you've got like two small things, these two supplements, two pills a day. That's all your body's asking for. That's it. That's all you need. And of course, they're thrilled. I mean, people don't want fistfuls of pills. People don't want hundreds and thousands of dollars of supplements to solve their problem. But I'm like, when you wake up tomorrow and you're like, I've been doing all of this, and these two little pills are going to be the answer. So you're going to get into kind of some disbelief on this. So so I'm like, just suspend that, and we're going to retest, and you'll see the numbers, and you're going to see how all of this is going to change within about 3 months. So just understanding that big problems don't have to have big solutions. Big problems can be solved with very simple things. So the biggest patterns that are destroying so many people's health is that they are just not making those simple changes. And again, you don't have to change everything all at once. It's doing one little thing, getting that into an automation. We talked about the subconscious over the course of this week. When you do something every single day, eventually your subconscious just automates that. So you don't have to think about that anymore. Now that is taken care of. I'll give you a really easy example: hydration. In general, the American population is radically dehydrated. That's what the data shows. Once you get into a routine with hydration, you don't really have to think about it anymore. It's just done. You almost can't imagine not drinking your water. It takes a few days. I mean, I'm not going to say it happens overnight, but once that happens, there you go. Now we can add another routine without overwhelming your system. So having these small changes, I want to tell you, just a quick story. So years and years ago, before I got into all of this kind of functional medicine and before I got into all of that, okay, I mean, I used to make fun of people who ate the way that I eat now. I mean, I was like, I will never be one of those people. I will never be one of those people who's walking around with their custom water that they're that they're drinking. I'm never going to be one of those people who's going to sit down at a restaurant and order the steamed broccoli. I'm never going to be one of those people that like, oh, that's those people don't seem to be having any fun. Just I had this whole conception, and it is funny how now, and I didn't. It wasn't all at once, but now I am one of those people, and I'm really happy to be one of those people. It feels amazing. It feels so good to eat better. And I mean, it's not even one of those things that where I'm like, oh, I should do it to be healthy or I should do it because people are watching. No, I'm doing it because that makes me feel amazing. I want to enjoy my life. I want to enjoy the foods that I'm eating and I want to enjoy the hour after I eat them. I don't want to be distended and feel lethargic and like, oh, why did I do that? I want to enjoy the whole process. And especially once you get acclimated, and like you kind of, shift, make some shifts, you do start to crave this stuff. I mean, you start to crave good foods. And it's really incredible. The last thing I want to get into with regards to patterns that are really harsh on you is there are patterns, especially family patterns. So it is part of the community of health, part of like working with those whom you love. A lot of your patterns, you inherited them. The way you eat, a lot of us, when you look back to your defaults, you're gonna realize that this is something that, again, came from the way I was raised. I've had a lot of great conversations with my siblings. I've got sisters, about like, okay, how we were raised and the foods that we're eating, and kind of just the dysfunctionality of all of that. And I mean, we're like second generation processed food people. Like, I so envy those of you who like, oh, my grandma had the best cooking. Oh, my grandma was the best cook. My grandma had like the boxes of preservative filled hostess snack cakes. I mean, there was no glorious baking and all that. I mean, like I said, I'm a third generation here, no cooking family. So we are getting into that where people just don't have no clue of what great food, wonderful at home cooking is like. Anyway, I'm part of that. And here's one of the things. So my sister, who, as I've been the health guru, for the last several decades, but here she started to really get into this, especially over the last few years. And she found out, like, gluten is a real issue for her. So pulling that all out of her diet and reworking all of this and getting her exercise. Let me just tell you, here we are coming into our 50s. And I mean, she looks amazing. I am so proud of her. I mean, she's never looked this good. And I'm looking at her bio data. Her bio data is now incredible. Now that she's made these different changes, and we were talking last time we saw each other about just how much. how much better she feels how we feel better, coming into our 50s than we did in our 20s and our 30s. And it's all because of these patterns that we have changed over time. Again, not all at once, not this huge upheaval and, you scorch earth everything and starting all over. No, just subtly switching out the things that are not working, constantly asking the question of what's next, what could do better, and then taking it from there. So, with regards to our entire movement here that we're doing, creating this momentum, these 90 days of momentum coming up to the end of the year, have these conversations, with the people that you were raised with, your siblings, your extended family, about some of the decisions and some of the choices that we made, back, and okay, how do we want to shift from there? Let me give you an example. We sat down just recently, that we've got these holidays and we've got these wonderful traditions of different foods and different things as we're coming to the holidays. But, what if we just start making some slight modifications to how this works? What if, instead of that fat laden cholesterol filled casserole, I mean, what if it was fresh vegetables? I mean, is that something everybody could get behind? I'm not saying we have to throw everything out, but just making some subtle changes. There's this um, there's this philosophy that I learned from Disney, and the people over at Disney World. One of the things that they do is they always are upgrading, updating. But they only make 10% changes at a time. 10% changes. So one of the things that is like, if they change everything too radically, that would be disruptive. And we, like, you can't tear down Cinderella's castle. That would, we need some things to feel familiar. We need that comfort of familiarity, but yet we need that just a little bit of excitement, just that ounce of new flavor that makes us engaged, makes us want to see what is it going to be like this time. Think about that for your holidays. Think about that for your family gatherings. What if we're not going to change everything, but what if we just made a 10% tweak to how we go about this? And then next year we make another 10% tweak and another 10%. Do you realize in just a couple years, I mean, there's significant amount of positive change. You just have to think about it it just takes a moment, think it through. What could that be for this year? So when you're going through the patterns, and again, just 10% change, what is one of those small 10% changes that you could be doing that, given, a few months and a few years, and for a lot of us, a few decades, could make all the difference in the world? So thank you all so much. I'll be signing off for this week, and we'll be starting again on Monday. So anyone who, if this is helping you at all, we're going to be doing this for about 90 days, where I'm going to be going on live. Please do subscribe, hit the bell so that you can be notified whenever we are going live. And if you have questions, you can just jump on in. So have a wonderful, blessed rest of your week.